Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome to the Online Darts Live Lounge. Here we are for episode number 2, and I think we've sorted out the little issues we had with the buffering. So here we are, me, Phil Bars, Jala Featon, and Jack Gobby Garwood. Here we are, live lounge number 2, boys. It's been good, isn't it, so far?
Yes. It's been tiring, I think is probably the right word of saying this one, Phil. The last 9 days in Milton Keynes has been absolutely mental to get back to doing darts, and they've been great to obviously be part of the team here alongside yourself and Gob. Get absolute stick for missing one show of the whole week, and I get absolutely nailed for it, which is good to see nothing's changed, Gob.
Yeah, definitely, mate, but well worth it being back covering live darts, and what a way for us to get back into it, if you like. What a tournament, and what 9 days we've had at Milton Keynes. Phil, obviously you were there in the bio bubble, as you like, and us two from home late nights, as it were, as all the events have finished. So yeah, solid team effort all around, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely, and we go back to it, Jar. We don't make the rules, we just enforce them.
Yeah, I get that. I get all that. Don't worry about that. It's but like I say, it was a really, really good tournament, and it was probably the most unexpected major win, I'm going to say, in probably 3 to 4 years, probably since the maestro Philip Douglas's last match play win in Blackpool. It was probably the last major win this surprising.
Yeah, I don't think anyone before the tournament said Dimitri van den Berg would win the tournament, and that's not being disrespectful to Dimitri. He's obviously a fabulous player, but the bookies don't often get it wrong, and when you're 100 to 1 at the start, that's for a reason. First of all, just good evening, Charlie, joining us on YouTube. First comment of the night. Welcome along, mate, to the live lounge. So yeah, going back to it, I think the first round sort of like set the stall out a little bit, didn't it? That we thought we were going to get a normal tournament because the seeds did all right in round 1. We'll come on to where it all went wrong in a minute, Gob, but you called it 5 seeds were going to go, and you got the magical number right.
Yeah, it wasn't the ego
anymore.
It wasn't the combination of players we expected to be at risk dropping out the tournament, but we did get to that number 5 in the end. The first night, seeds got away with it unscathed, and it sort of went downhill from there on. Yeah, like I said, it felt like it started like a normal tournament. Of the 16, I think 5's a reasonable number to drop out the first round, especially the way that some of the ties came out in the draw. But after that, it really did become seed again and all over again. And it's mad what putting the 32 best players in the world will do for the seeds.
Yeah. Seedings went out the window, that's for sure. Jar, just looking at it, first round, what was your notable game and notable shock, if we'll have it?
I don't really know if it's a shock or not, but I think Simon Whitlock actually beating Ryan Joyce. That's probably the biggest shock of the lot, to be brutally honest. I mean, yeah, fair enough, Rob Cross against Gabe Clemens is probably a big shock, but remember, Gabe is a great player. Like, he's really on the rise. Like, I didn't think of it as much of a shock because of the way that Cross had been playing in the summer series. I mean, Gezi Price, against Danny Noppert as well, though, that's a potential shock in there. But the fact that Simon Whitlock comfortably beat Ryan Joyce, really, a man who just won the summer series, and a man who was fighting for his life in the top 16, obviously not top 16 anymore, but a man who was at the time fighting in his life in the top 16, that is a big shock to me, especially when Joyce has been playing so well.
It was, but I know Ryan Joyce hasn't said this out loud, but did you hear the little story about his semi-injury going into the game?
Yeah.
Hearing through the grapevine.
Yes.
He cut his finger where his dart rests. Now, to be fair, I kind of believe that because he hasn't said it himself. But that's Ryan Joyce all over. That we've seen big performances, but not enough of them. I think that would be fair to say, Gob.
Yeah, I agree, and we said it when he won the event that he's always had the ability, but sometimes it's been his mentality that he's struggled with. He's been a bit petulant on the board before, but he seemed to put together that good day, Mill needs at the Summer Series that pushed him on. And he is that sort of. He won't make excuses for it. When we've seen Petrus before, or when we've just seen him have a bad day before, he doesn't have a lot to say about it. He just like, that wasn't good enough. I'll come back and I'll do something different, or I'll try again. So, yeah, the injury isn't the best time thing for him. And I think we did have him as favourite for that match, probably, with the form he was carrying. So, yeah, a bit of a surprise for that one. Not my biggest surprise of the first round, I'll be honest. I think Dimitri getting through the first round was the biggest surprise for me. Nathan's a quality player. Where is he in the world now? I can't even remember where Aspinall is.
Number six in the world now, yeah.
And he's another that seems to relish being on stage and on TV, etc. So that wasn't one that I saw a seed being upset. We didn't touch on it a great deal in any preview show, because it was one where we just not assumed, but
I said it.
We're all pretty comfortable.
I said it.
In jest. In jest,
not
because
the
of
point.
your love for Dimitri.
Not the point. I still said it, so I'm claiming it.
Even then, you went back against it. Like, it's like throwing up something a little stick, isn't it? Like,
oh dear.
Yeah, just Dimitri getting through that first round against Nathan, who is a quality operator, who's been deep on TV, and won events. I just wasn't expecting it. I'll be completely honest. I didn't think that Dimitri performed well enough, because his floor game is not the level of his TV game. I think that's a polite way of putting it. There are times when there's a massive disparity between the two. And yeah, that's my shock of the first round. And arguably, it goes on to be the shock of the tournament.
We'll come on to it. Just a couple of YouTube questions coming in. We will touch on the Vincent van der Voort, Kirk Bevins bit when we come on to that in a minute, guys. So don't worry, we won't dodge the subject, but we won't break ranks. We go through round by round, but don't worry, everyone on YouTube, we will talk about it because we have to. That's what we're here for. But yeah, no, I agree that the first round, not too many shocks. However, gentlemen, round number 2, and that shock book goes somewhere out my window, out there, across next door's garden, and maybe into the one after that. First up, top of the shop, Michael van Gerwen getting obliterated 11-4 by Simon Whitlock, and there's no other way to put it, and it was an abomination. Yeah.
What more can you say? I think we said it on the day, by the way, about on the Match Play Daily that we do. Obviously, we did it throughout the entire week. And I remember saying at that point to both of you, can you remember a performance where Michael van Gerwen was that bad? And I still can't now, nearly a week on. No, not since he's probably won his major.
Not a complete game, but I remember the World Series when he lost to, who did he lose to in Germany, which was a shock? Martin Schindler, when he was one game away and completely switched off. But that was him switching off because he was in cruise control. But from start to finish, I still can't believe he didn't play with the UK Open darts. I'm just putting it out there. I staggered that he changed.
What do you think? We've always talked about this, about the top professionals in particular, Phil. Do we honestly believe here at the moment, this is probably a question to both of you, that he's still chasing something that maybe isn't there? Because he's gone and won the UK Open, and to be fair, if he hadn't won the UK Open final against Gezi Price, admittedly what happened in the Summer Series, okay, I totally accept that. But I really think that had he not won that UK Open against Gezi Price in the final, we'd be having serious questions right now by the world number 1. Serious questions.
Yeah, possibly. But I'm just surprised. I think he's still searching. I think in his head, he thinks he can be better than what he was in 16-17. And whether he can or not is another matter. I wouldn't back against him, that's for sure. But he's still searching for something. And for me, the UK darts were the ones. But hey, he's Michael van Gerwen. He'll do what he wants.
Yeah. He's still miles away from the rest of the field in terms of the world #1 ranking. Gob, he'll be fine, won't he?
Yeah, of course he will. No one's getting near him anytime soon. But back to the darts, I think we're saying that about a lot of players at the minute and searching to be at a level they were before. We said it about AD Lewis a couple of times in the week. Where is he chasing that level where he was the 2-time world champion and those performances he was putting in when he was clashing with Phil Taylor in every other major event? I think we can say the same about Rob Cross. I think he's chasing the level of performance from when he reached the World Championships. And I think that the players are... We're in an era where there's so much put on the averages and the stats that come with the performances rather than there's a result, I'm happy with it. And I think they're constantly chasing that level and that perfection of throwing less than 15 dart legs over and over and over again. That I think they're putting more pressure on themselves rather than going out, getting results and picking up prize money and titles.
Yeah, I see that, but I don't think we'll see those darts again from Michael van Gerwen, and I think we can all agree on that one when the Premier League returns. Going down through the list, I think we can all agree, second game, we were all disappointed in James Wade against Gary Anderson. James Wade from the first round didn't turn up. Go on, he has his your hero.
Yeah. Well, it was sort of like the worst game. It was like that Gary Neville quote, wasn't it, when it was Liverpool or Man City to win the Premier League. It's like, which one do you want to run off with your wife? I didn't want to see either of them lose. Gary wasn't really great at that point. I think he was trying to build his way up into the tournament. I don't think he would have been too upset of himself had he not progressed at that point, because he just wasn't at the level that you need to be to win these events. But yeah, James didn't have a great game against him. Allowed Gary to do what Gary does to get out of trouble, rather than those finishes helping James out. So, which is strange because this is a tournament that James traditionally does very well at. Very well at. I mean, he's never lost in the first round, which is a fantastic record. But that's not the great. I think Gary was there for the taking, and especially with Michael to then go on to fall in the following match. Would James have made a better final of it? Maybe.
Yeah, I agree. Then the next one, this was a really good game. Christophe Fraterty edging Gabriel Clements, and we know, Jar, that you're a fan of both. I think it's fair to say, so you can talk us through this one, but a really good game.
Well, the big question is that do you think now that both of them can do it on a stage, Phil?
One I am more convinced on. One still is to convince me.
Would that be the one that won the match by any chance?
I've got to say, Ratajski has convinced me more after the match play. I was impressed by Ratajski throughout. Clements, I still think there's questions, because although he played better in round two, let's be brutally honest, the game against Rob Cross, he averaged 89 and won a match play first round game. So I'm still not 100% sold on Clements yet.
Against a defending champ as well, yeah. Not great that.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, but around that game in particular, right, with Ratajski and Clements, I thought it was a real solid scrap between the pair. More than 21 80s in the game, absolutely banging them in for fun at one stage. Gabriel Clements coming back from the abyss, really, at one stage, lead 10-9. Really good comeback from him, just couldn't quite get over the line. But, I mean, look, the Polish Eagle's the Polish Eagle. He is going to win a major title at some stage. He's too good to not win a major title. I think maybe I gave him a bit too much harshness at the start of the week by saying that I want that success now, because we're so used to seeing darts players sort of like have that instant success. And I think that I may give him a little bit too much. But credit to Clements, by the way, because he didn't go away at any stage. He was an absolutely brilliant performance from him, I thought, on stage there. But Ratajski, he's doing bits. And it was a really good game between the pair.
No, I agree. Moving down, the next one, Michael Smith against Mensur Suljovic, 14-12. I think that scoreline flatters Mensur. If I'm being honest, I thought Smith was the better player.
I don't know if it does.
Throughout. No, I wasn't convinced.
I don't know if it does. I actually think that what that showed more than anything about Buddy Boy. maybe a slight one. Maybe it's a backhanded one because he should have won the game. There's no doubt about that, in my opinion. Silovic got into a winning position and he should have won the game. Full stop. That 11-dart breaker throw, by the way, when he goes 11-10 down, absolute stones. Absolute stones from him. Absolute cojones, as I always used to say. But Smith, right, Mensah missing 6 darts in each of the last 2 legs. As in, like, so there's 3 in the first leg and then 3 in the next leg, right, to go and take us into a sudden death or potentially even win the game, right? He's got to do better there. He has to do better for a Champions League winner, for a television title winner. He's got to do better. But Michael Smith proved to me there, more than anything else, that he's a different player than what he would have been 12 months ago. In that moment there, that moment, we'll come on to the quarterfinal in a second, I'm sure. But Michael Smith in that game really dug deep. He went to the well. And unlike normal, where because things like that, if that game would happen where he kept missing doubles for legs, he probably would have got frustrated. He would have beaten himself up. There would have been all over the show, and like he probably would have been a bit, angry on stage, and it would have affected him. That one, it didn't, and you got to give credit to him for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. Then going into the other half of the draw, one of the games of the year, I'd say, not in terms of maybe averages and quality, but just drama. The world champion departed as Duzza dazzles and beats Peter Wright 11-8, and it was just a damn good game to watch, Gob.
Yeah, it was. It was very up and down. Peter Wright got out of the blocks really early. Duzza pinned him back. Wright then had a whole world of trouble on the outer ring and suddenly started hitting bullseye for fun to keep him in the match, which it in itself is just mental. But I think Duzza was the better player in this one. The fact he's made back-to-back semi-finals at the match play and he's only ever been there twice is a fantastic achievement. The caliber of players he's beaten on those runs is fantastic. Obviously, he took out Michael Van Gerwen last year. This year, Peter Wright. We just said this about Smith, but I think this is a matter of time before Glendower does pick up a big PBC title. I just think that his setup play is ridiculous, that it puts players under so much pressure, the way that he can go from in and around 200 to leave a single darter or 2 darter. Still, I'm not overawed by his scoring power. I still think there's a little bit of an improvement to be made there. I think he tries too hard to follow the first dart sometimes, and that's where you see him snatching a little bit. But other than that, he just looks fantastic on the hockey. And he's one of them as well where, all right, he's not miles off, but I think this is where a 2-year ranking system doesn't quite reflect the current rankings in my head. He is a lot higher than 12 or 13 where he sits at the minute in terms of best players in the world right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree there. The last 2, interesting. Adrian Lewis, 11-7 over Danny Noppert. And again, this is one that I don't know how Noppert just hangs in games, because he was outplayed for a lot of it. The averages, I know they don't mean everything, but when there's nearly 13 points difference in the average, Noppert's, you've got to give him credit, and he's got a set of kahunas to hang in there when it matters. Apart from that, there's not really much to talk about in that game, if we're being honest.
No, but at the same time, though, Lewis should be doing better than that. I'm sorry, he should be. If he's pinging in 100 averages and stuff like that, then he should be getting down to finishes quicker than that. Like I say, Noppert at one stage, it was about a 16, 17 point difference, if I remember saying it correctly, after about 5 or 10 legs. That ain't Lewis has got to. Okay, fair enough. He goes and wins the game, but in my opinion, he goes and turns on the afterburners at 6-all to go and win the game. Now he should be doing better. He should be winning that game a lot more comfortably, in my opinion. If we're going to give Lewis this huge comeback that everyone's talking about, he's actually dropped down the rankings from where he was. I mean, do you know what I mean? He's dropped down a place. It's not anything. That's just a fact.
Yeah, circumstances when at the start of the tournament, I don't think we'd have quite predicted that Dimitri would have come from miles away to now be world number 12. But no, I get what you mean, that I'm not completely sold on the Adrian Lewis comeback yet. Yes, I saw improvements from him, and his weapon of choice was interesting, shall we say, through the tournament. But yeah, I think that Lewis should have got rid of him easier. And then the bottom one, Dancing Dimmy dodges a bullet in this one because he beats Joe Cullen 11-9, but Joe Cullen, I think he's on holiday now on his Instagram. He must be sat around the pool thinking, how have I lost this game? Because in the middle spells, Dimitri was there for the taking, in my opinion, in this game. Fair plays for Dimitri because he took his chances when they were presented, and that's a dart player, that's all you can do. But Joe will be kicking himself how he's lost this game, I think.
Oh, 100%. And Mark Webster said it on commentary at the time, I think, that was the sort of performance that Joe Cullen needs to start getting over the line at the end of. That it's no good constantly turning up, being involved in good games, good scraps, and being the plucky runner-up. Joe Cullen needs to start winning those games and getting over the line and pushing on again. He's got the ability. We've seen he's got the ability. He's constantly in the final four of Euro Tours last year. And that scrap against Gary Anderson, again, at the match play, he was the plucky loser. Last year, let's just write it off. He had a bad day when Ian White took him to the cleaners 10-0, but he still hasn't quite got there for the World Championships either. And Joe's one that you're looking at going, is it ever going to happen for him on a big TV event now? Because, like I just said, we've seen he's got the ability. He's done it on floor events. He's done it on Euro Tours. But to lose that game from the position he was in, whilst you have to give Dimitri credit, Cullen, like you said, will be kicking himself.
100%. Moving on to the quarterfinals. We'll start at the top because I think each one of these has talking points. Gary Anderson edging past Simon Whitlock 16-12, but all the talk afterwards was about the Simon Whitlock points and what they do to a dartboard, shall we say. Guys, where are we standing on points? Because I think we're all going to agree, but we're going to disagree to a degree on this as well. So, Jar, where are you on the Simon Whitlock points?
Just get on with it. Get on with it. Honestly, it bores me to tears reading about it. Simon Whitlock had every right to say what he said on Twitter. You know, basically saying that, like, I've tried to use normal points. They ain't worked. The other points work. Until the PDC outlaw those darts, he can do what the hell he likes. And people moaning about it on Twitter, just get over it. If you don't like watching Whitlock, if you don't like watching these games, don't watch them. Don't watch them. It's not difficult. You have an opportunity to switch off. Appreciate you want to watch the quarterfinal of the match play, but if you don't like them, don't watch it. Simple as. Honestly, it really wound me up, but you might be able to tell it.
So where are you going on the points debate after that? Then
I'll tell you how you really feel.
Quite as emotional about it.
Yeah, just get over with it.
Until they're outlawed, there isn't a lot that anybody else can say I do. The fact that the PDC were changing match boards after 5 legs every session is a little bit of a joke, in my opinion. The problem is the consistency with which all boards are made. I think this happens across all manufacturers, all types of dartboards. You can get such a variation between a board that you can take straight from a box, be it soft, hard, just hit dead patches. I mean, there are manufacturers and boards that are more consistent. But I think the Unicorn TV boards are set up to look good on TV. And there's the issue. Once they start losing that, do they hold up? And I'm not quite sure they're the most consistent board out there for this level.
My issue maybe isn't with the boards itself. I think it's because they're made from a living product. I think the storage of them has an awful lot to do with it. I really do. Because people at home, they're stored at room temperature and they're put up at room temperature and they're sat there, which is why I think they last longer. Where the PDC is always on the road and yet they're constantly moving, they're either in a truck, they're either left in the cold or maybe in the heat. So I think the storage of them has a lot to do with it personally. But
yeah,
look,
I wouldn't be against that. I definitely see the way that conditions can affect the boards.
Yeah,
in all sorts of venues and pubs. So.
But like we say, until they're outlawed, which I'm sure it will be on a board meeting in the near future, we move on. Next one, Christophe Fraterty against Michael Smith, and again, a really good game. This And Michael Smith showed some kahunas again. When he had to, he went to the well again, and he came up with an absolute belter when he needed it.
I was more impressed with Smith at this point in the tournament than at any stage of the tournament, because Ratajski was taking out huge outshots. The 128 comes to mind, the 104, the 161 on the bull to go 8-7 up going into that break, and he got the breaker throw going into that break. Had there not been a breaker throw there, I don't know whether we'd be having this conversation, because it allowed Smith to have a couple of minutes just to go, right, okay, let's cool down. I'm absolutely battering on the board, and I don't know how I'm losing this game. But to come back like he did, and he, again, like Lewis in that session against Noppert, turned on the afterburners. That really impressed me, and that shows to me that even though he didn't make it as far this year as he did last year, I've seen more from Michael Smith in this tournament to suggest that he is going to win that elusive PDC TV major title this week. That game in particular really showed me that.
100%. Only a matter of time, in my opinion. Only a matter of time. Right, the next one, we could be here a while. It's probably the biggest talking point of the tournament, if we're being honest. Glenn Durant beating a resurgence of Vincent van der Voort, 18-6. Right. Glenn was in a world of trouble. I think it's fair to say that in our little WhatsApp chat, we were like, he's done. How's he coming back from this?
Yeah.
10-5. Vincent was absolutely flying. But Glenn does what Glenn does. Absolute balls of steel. Found a way to win. However, the big talking point from the game was the Vincent van der Voort, Kirk Bevins incident, shall we say. And I think, going to put that out there first, I think TV has made it look worse than what it was. When you listen to everything after. But Kirk Bevins, for those that don't know, Vincent did an underarm throw, and Kirk rightly disallowed the point-scoring dart that was thrown underarm. Vincent questioned it at the time, wasn't happy. Now, this is where it all gets a little bit muddy in the waters. We heard clearly on commentary that Kirk said it was for an underarm throw. Now, in the heat of battle on the stage, Vincent believed he'd been penalised for overstepping the hockey. Correct, guys?
Correct.
But I think that the thing is that he might have said that at the time, but then Kirk actually goes and says to him, doesn't he? He motions it. It's an underarm throw like that. So he actually motions to him on the stage, and I think that's what he accepted.
Yeah, I think by then, I think Vincent's head may have gone a little bit, because he still was thinking he's been done for overstepping the hockey when he hasn't. So in an ideal scenario, there'd have been a TV break there, and Kirk could have explained it. And I think then, but obviously because we were in the latter stages, there was no break. So they just had to get on with it. And you could see Vincent's head was ticking. And he started to miss crucial doubles. And I think it's fair to say let Glenn back into that game. If the underarm throw doesn't happen, do we both think Vincent van der Voort wins that game?
I think he does. But the thing that gets me about the incident is look where the dart landed. It was very, very close to bullseye in the one. I don't think he was intending to hit the one anyway. I think it was thrown in frustration, possibly to even bust. Saw where it landed 100%. And then got frustrated that it hadn't counted because he'd thrown it underarm and just didn't take on board the reason behind that as well. So I think that's the Vincent of old that we've seen, where he can be a little bit petulant, a little bit stroppy, perhaps. He's very much a rhythm and juggernaut of player. So, yeah.
I agree. And then obviously Glenn goes on to win the match. Vincent has a little bit of a pointing spat at Kirk for overstepping the mark. It didn't look great on TV. But then obviously he went and did his interview with RTL, explained his side of it, and I think then overnight, shall we say, I think Vincent's watched it back, hears the commentary that we've heard, and understands that he's been penalised for the underarm throw, and fair play to him, apologised to Kirk on social media and has said that at the next event he will personally apologise to him in person as well. So although it looked bad on TV, you've got to respect Vincent for coming out and apologising so quick and admitting he was wrong.
It takes a bigger man to apologise than it is just to walk away. I always said that about that, and I said it on Twitter at the time. I think the issue's done and dusted. Well, personally, I think it is for me. I'm not sure whether DRA might not want to have a little chat with Vincent van der Voort. I think the Christmas party might be back on now, personally. But certainly he is, in my opinion, that was a really good move from Vincent. I thought it was absolutely spot on to do it. I thought it was absolutely the right thing to do. He realised he was in the wrong. He came out and apologised. And the worst thought about this, actually, was the fact that people on social media were going down, were really hammered him for it. At the end of the day, he's admitted that he's wrong. Like, I appreciate that, he's had moments in the past, obviously getting his phone out on stage and all that sort of stuff. But like, that was the hilarious moment, wasn't it? But my point.
What was that?
Yeah, exactly right. But my point is, right, is that Vincent, for me, really did a great job coming back, apologising, making an absolute right decision, right thing to do, apologised, moved on, issue dead, apart from the DRA because they want a great Christmas lunch.
Yep, 100%. And then in the bottom one, Dancing Dimmy dances into the semi-final, a 16-12 victory over Adrian Lewis. And in all fairness, Dimitri was comfortable in this game.
Yeah, he was. I thought he was very, very comfortable.
Yeah,
to be brutally honest. I thought. Yeah, go on, Gob. You go, mate.
It was a performance that we'd sort of seen before from him. We saw him go on to repeat as well. He did as. Oh,
no, is he jumping there? Yes, we can hear you now, Gob. You're back now, mate.
Perfect. So it was a performance that we'd sort of seen from Dimitri before, and we'd go on to see from him again. He looked composed. He never looked under too much duress at the big moments. I think he stopped and centered himself really well and took that little amount of extra time that I'll get onto the way that he did that in the final when we get there. But for the rest of the tournament, I think that was absolutely fine in the way that he did it. And yeah, it was just a very mature performance from somebody that hasn't been in that situation very often.
Yeah, no, completely. Right, the semi-final night, Saturday night at the match play. Usually at the Winter Gardens, it's special. It was at Milton Keynes, but both semi-finals were still special. First up, Gary Anderson beating Michael Smith, 18-16. The Sorcerer does The Apprentice, but a really good game. And it was one of those ones, the damage was done in the first two sessions for me. Michael was slow in starting. Gary took advantage and couldn't quite peg it back, Jar.
No, I thought for a while, right? Here's the thing, because obviously it was 14-9 up at one stage with Gary. Smith goes and wins 6 on the spin, which you think, oh, okay, here he is. He's right back in the semi-final now. He's got the breaker throw as well, which is crucial. And I think he used up all his energy trying to get back into the game. He just looked like he just really expended a lot of energy, and Gary was still relatively fresh. And I thought that it was a really good comeback from Smith. He just left himself too much to do. But Gary in that game, first 3 sessions in particular, was absolutely sensational. Some of the stuff that he was throwing was magical. Absolutely magical.
Gob, some vintage Gary in that semi-final.
Gary evolved, please. Could watch it all day. Fantastic when he gets going like that. If he is on that sort of form, you can tell by his body movement. It's very limited. His action just looks so much smoother than it has done at times, especially as it then went on to look in that final. It's just, I don't think there's a better sight. If him and Adrian Lewis are both fully fit, and played a best of 100, I'd watch it on loop constantly for about 4 days. I just think it'll be that good. It's just aesthetically, there's not a better sight in darts. But I will say,
I was just going to say, it's weird, right? Oh, sorry, go on, mate. Go on. I was going to say it's weird that Gary and Adrian have hit the most 180s in a match together in the PDC's history. It's not by accident.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I mean. When it's on, they're just on, and there's no other way to explain it. They're both two of the most naturally gifted dart players I think you'll ever see. There's just no effort when they want to produce. So yeah, but Bully Boy, a little bit unlucky, I think. Like I said, he started really slowly. I mean, before we got to the semi-finals, and obviously we know the results now, it comes out, the performances from the quarterfinals suggested to me that these results would be the other way around.
Yeah, I agree.
A Smith-Durant final was the clear and heavy favourite. So the performances that Gary and Dimitri then went on to put on to get to the final were class.
I agree. And the second semi-final, Dimitri Vandenberg edging stablemate and good friend Glenn Durant 17-15. And again, a strange semi-final. Dimitri starts well, goes in front. Glenn battles, gets himself back into the game, goes in front. And let's be honest here, when Glenn went in front, did any of us see Dimitri winning?
Yes. No.
Not
at all. Absolutely not. I'll be honest with you now. I think this is Glenn. Glenn obviously is not going to hurt as much because obviously he's 3-time BDO world champion, right? We know how much he's done for the game. We know how good he is. But in that moment, I know it's appreciated. It's a good friend. It's a man he travels with all the time. But in that moment, there's got to be a regret there. There has to be regret. You will never get a better chance, in my opinion, with the way the draw's opened up, to lift your maiden PDC TV title.
To a degree, yes, but I think Glenn's better when he plays the big boys. And I don't know why, but for some reason, I think he breaks the mold, but he becomes better. And I'm not being disrespectful to Dimitri or anything like that, but I just think that he prefers that underdog status, that underdog, that battling grit, like against Peter Wright, like against Michael last year at the match play. So I might be wrong, but I just think that he becomes better the better player he plays.
Well, there's no accident why he's the top of the Premier League, is there? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no accident. He's absolutely smashing it out of the park this year, and he will be there past Judgment Night. I will be happily make a prediction on that he will pass Judgment Night. And
I think he's already safe, Jar.
Well, do you know me, mate? The big calls coming out on this show from me right now. The thing is that the point that I'm making is the fact that, like, he does play against big boys, but at the same time, you aren't going to get many opportunities where a semi-finalist is making his debut PDC TV semi-final, and you've got a man. On the other side of the draw bracket, you've got a man who's obviously won many titles, but not back to his fully best fit. And you've got a man in the other side of the draw who's made many finals, but never won a PDC tournament. And I think there will be a bit of regret there for Glenn. But still, as Gob says, to make a semi-final back-to-back in the match play and to be 13 in the world without a great run at the Worlds, he's won 2 Pro Tours, he hasn't won a Euro Tour yet. That is magical stuff.
Kahunas.
Yes.
So the final was set up. It was the Flying Scotsman, Gary Anderson, against the Dreammaker, Dimitri Vandenberg. Now, I know we all thought that Gary would win the final. However, me and God both said that if you're going off stats, Dimitri was the huge favourite for this final. And Jar, you weren't having it. However, let's be honest, it was pretty one-sided, the final. After the first session, which was scrappy, Dimitri was head and shoulders comfortable the whole final. God.
Yeah, he was. Gary just didn't turn up. You could see the difference in his action between the night before and the actual final. It was jerky. He was releasing wrong. He had darts slipping out of his hands in that first mini session. Everyone thought he changed darts. He just gave him a bit of a wipe down and then changed the flights to see if that made a difference. Gary had opportunities in that opening session to lead at the break. It was Dimitri's darts, but Dimitri held himself together. The performance from Dimitri, you can't take anything away from a 98 average. I just wish that was the only thing we were talking about from the final. The pace wasn't great. I think there are slow players and players that are naturally slow, like Justin Pipe and that sort of thing. But I think there were things that Dimitri did in the final that were above and beyond how he'd normally approach and play the game. And I think they were very deliberate, bearing in mind his opponent and the pace that they like to play at, deliberately laid back to both sessions after the break, walking off the wrong way and all those sort of things. I think they were very deliberate in an attempt to gain that upper hand on Gary, who you could see getting more and more frustrated throughout the game.
Are you talking about Peter Manley dark arts?
Well, I was going to come in. I was going to come in on this quickly, right? If this is Gezi Price right now, and he does something similar like that, remember what happened obviously 2 years ago with the Grand Slam and Wolverhampton in the final, and all the antics that was going on there. Do we reckon that this would have been more blown out of proportion than than we're talking about now with Dimmy? Scott,
possibly so. Yes, but I think it was borderline. That everyone knows that there's grey areas in darts, and gamesmanship is one of them. I don't think he massively. I think he was right on the line of between what's right and what's not. Players know that Gary gets affected by this, and it's a way that you can get under Gary Anderson's skin. Now, everyone's known this for years, so in a way, Gary has to try and adapt and deal with it, and he did deal with it better, in fairness. We didn't get a massive explosion or a finger pointing or anything like that, so he is getting better with it. Was Dimitri close to the line? Yes. Did he cross it? Probably just about legal, would be my assessment of it.
No, it's a fair point. I just think personally, right, that I don't know. For me, Gary probably got a bit more under his skin. Obviously, Phil, there's no doubt about that. And don't take anything away, by the way, from what happened to Dimitri van den Bergh. Dimitri van den Bergh, coming back from that fourth session in particular, was absolutely phenomenal. From 8-7 up, he goes and wins 10 of the last 13 legs. That just isn't about gamesmanship. That's not about anything else. That's just absolutely mint.
Yeah, 100%. And apologies, everyone. We've just lost Gob temporarily. He'll be back with us. But don't worry, we'll keep on talking, me and you, Jar, till he comes back in. The joys of modern internet connections.
I can't wait until we get back to the days. I can't wait till we get back to the days where we can actually see each other in person, Phil. That's going to be be glorious at this point.
Well, they're not far away. Let's be honest. They're not a million miles away. But yeah, just a really good tournament, and to see Dimitri win it opens up. Oh, he's back again. Here he is.
Hi, Gob. Here he is.
Yeah, I just think it opens up so many doors for Dimitri, bordering the top 10 in the world, and we all know that he will now get that golden phone call on New Year's Day or whenever the final is to say, Dimitri, you're going to be dancing around the Premier League for 8 to 16 weeks.
I'll tell you something, right? Not just in terms of the fact for Dimmy van den Bergh, by the way, because he will obviously, he's a great player. But the PDC must be absolutely thrilled about this now. They've got to be absolutely thrilled about this. A new market to go and explode into the sport. A Belgium winning. Belgium's not exactly, short of darts players at this moment in time as well. It's a hotbed of the game. Holds a Euro Tour as well, holds a couple of Euro Tours potentially every year. And if he keeps going the way he's going and he keeps winning tournaments, do we think that there's going to be a Premier League night in Belgium at some stage soon? Brussels, get Brussels on that Premier League list, Barry, right now.
Well, possibly. Yeah,
I'd love it. I'd love it if Brussels were going to be on the Premier League. What a night that would be in Brussels. We talk about Berlin and we talk about how mental it is in the Mercedes-Benz Arena, and Rotterdam is incredible. But can you imagine if Dimitri van den Berg was in the Premier League, maybe in a couple of years' time as well, and he goes to Belgium? That would be mad. It'd be incredible, the atmosphere there.
Yeah, it would be good. Just a thing, Gob, I think you need to mute and unmute your audio, mate, because we can't hear you. It would be mint, and it'll be interesting. Right, a couple of questions from YouTube. Right, guys, it is opinions on game of the tournament. Oh,
ah dear. Right, this is a tight one. I'll be honest. Do you know what? I'm going to go with the Ratajski versus Smith game. I think that quarter-final is my game of the tournament. Personally, I think it was a game of two halves. I think it was a game where we saw comebacks, we saw huge outshots, we saw big 180s, we saw a load of great talent on display. Ratajski versus Smith is my game of the tournament.
Gob, over to you, if you can hear us.
We can't hear you, I'm afraid, Gob.
We can't hear you, Gob.
That's a good thing, normally.
Yeah. So, whilst we're waiting for Gob to sort his audio out, bless him, my game of the tournament, I'm going back to the first round. I really enjoyed Glenn Durant against Jeffrey Deswan. I thought Glenn was sensational. Near 107 average. I think it was his most complete tournament performance in the PDC over that format, and I thought he was good. I thought he was just electric and showed in that. And it was a tough one to call that because there was loads of good games when you look through it. The Keegan Brown James Wade game in round one is up there for drama and everything like that. So yeah, Gob, still no audio coming from you. So we'll just on your Vimeo, mate. If you muted, nod if you've done it. Mute and unmute on your Vimeo.
Technical problems are always on this show at times now. I love it.
It is what it is. Try leaving and then coming back and then muting and unmuting, mate. Well, me and Jar just carry on. Interesting for that. Just loads of good games. We'll get his game of the tournament in a minute. A couple more YouTube questions that we can answer. Well, whilst we're waiting for Gob to sort his audio out. If you were one from Charlie here, if you were going to pick a PDC tournament, what would it be? Not sure what you mean by that one, Charlie. If you were going to pick a PDC tournament, what to win? Obviously, Gob, we're back. We've got audio.
Hello.
Have we got audio from him? Oh my God, we've got it! It's like, yes! Oh wow, incredible scene! It's incredible scene.
It's like a light bulb moment. So, go on, your game of the tournament.
Technology works.
Jar pinched mine to start with. I was a big fan of the Smith Ratajski game. Wasn't Ratajski's best performance, considering he was highest on the average table before that, but he made a 92 average feel like 100 for his timing alone. But I really liked Peter Wright, Jose de Souza. Really good scrap between those two. Jose getting out of the blocks, really putting Peter Wright under pressure. Wright showing his calmness to get the job done in the end. I think the gravity of the moment got to Jose a bit. He tightened up in the arm a little bit and was just dropping the darts a little bit low, especially in the scoring visit. But yeah, that was my favourite game of the tournament, I think.
Nice. Right. So, what do we all think? I think the PDC done an amazing job of how it looked on TV and everything like that. I think we're agreeing there.
100%. 100%.
It just looked. Yeah, it looked fabulous. The noise the crowd noise that they pumped in as well was mint because it gave it that little bit extra as well. So the players weren't playing in a library like they do on the Pro Tour and everything like that. I just thought everything about it. The PDC and Sky did an absolute amazing job of a bad situation.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. Production was first class. I thought it looked great. They thought of quite a lot in having the Champions Wall in the background. I think the video wall from the fans to get people involved and build them up for that was first class. The sounds was class again. There was a few times where they weren't quite on it, but I think the football ones are based off of the FIFA engine, if I'm not mistaken. So that's pretty much built on already. Sky have done this by hand pretty much to get the crowd noise going, to time the cheers and whatever. So to do that without any practice, really.
There's a little story behind this, which only people that were there will know. Nights, I think, the first couple of nights, they used some crowd footage from a Euro tour. Now, not many people at Sky or the PDC were fluent in German, shall we say. And there might have been some expleets in Germany that had to be edited out. Which was...
Oh, wow.
I love that.
Which was hilariously funny, like because of the Euro Tour atmosphere is brilliant. Yeah, but so the Sky engineers not fluent in their German. Yes, there had to be some edits done, shall we say?
That's up there with the Willie O'Connor walk on that.
Yeah. I'm still going to say how that one got passed. I've got no, don't get me wrong, it was mint. I think it's fair to say that won't be used again in Ireland, that's for sure.
Definitely not. No.
No.
Nothing to see here. Yeah. Nothing to see here. Oh, God.
So the World Match Play is absolute mint. Charlie, do you think Gerwyn Price will be a future world number one? You wouldn't back against the Iceman getting that number one at some point? Do we not think?
No.
Well,
you definitely don't.
Charlie, the boys don't think so. Do I think Gerwyn Price could be world number one? Yeah, of course. Anything's possible. Anything, lads. You should know this. But no, the World Match Play. Yeah.
It is sport and anything can happen, and let's all believe in fairy tales.
Kirk Shepherd got to
that's not a fairy tale. That's a nightmare.
A world final.
Rob Cross won a world championship, but he still didn't go to world number one. Michael's going to dominate for a long time, being the same game that Gerwyn is, and I think Gerwyn will drop off by then as well. I think other players will come through. I think if Gerwyn was at a time where Michael doesn't exist, maybe.
Yeah, I was going to say that the only way that Gerwyn Price doesn't go to number one is the only way Price goes number one is if he can absolutely smash out the park for a couple of years and MBG drops off the face of a cliff. Simple as.
We said that about players competing with Phil Taylor for 20 years. So
yeah, true.
We've got one from Robin here on YouTube. We've touched on it. Do you think the match play titles guarantees Dimitri Premier League? 100%, mate. And I think we're all in agreement.
Absolutely.
There's absolutely no doubt that Dimitri's name will be on Barry's little bit of card when he speaks to Laura or Bridgie at the World Championships.
I will say this very, very quickly. Not just the fact that he's won the World Match Play now. That's also a big deal. But can you imagine the marketing department at the PDC right now? They are rubbing their hands. The fact that Dimitri van den Berg is going to get up on the big stage for the next 16 weeks. He is going to love it up there.
I'm just throwing out that.
It proves their system works as well, doesn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
Too. But like Dimitri winning proves their system works. You've had it with Aspinall, who's gone through the Challenge Tour route, come back up and gone on to win a major. Now you've got their most successful youth tour player ever going on to win a major. At a time when grassroots darts is fill in your own expletive, it's not going very well. It's proven that the foundations that the PDC are putting into place are working. And you can go on to be one of the best players in the world if you go through their system.
I was devastated. I really fancied the tournament when it was open this year.
I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted. Some actual real quality drinks that was on offer. It was a shame. I was really looking forward to
it. But yes, the match play is done. We don't know if there's going to be any more PDC darts until the Premier League. The rumour mill, they're trying to sort some Pro Tours out, but we don't know. A lot of players have gone on holiday and been caught out by quarantine by the look of it and everything like that. So there's another question there to be answered. But look, we don't know. The Premier League returns for 6 nights at the end of August back at MK. And I think it'll work now. When not knowing what was going to happen with the match play and how it was going to look, but I believe it's going to be the same setup apart from the Betfred banners will be replaced by Unibet and the Premier League staging. I think it will work because the players grew into it. Round number 1, we didn't get too many giving it a big one, but towards the end of it, they relaxed and they were giving it some as well. Right, Charlie's got to go. Charlie, thanks for watching as always, mate. Thank you very much. But yeah, I think the Premier League will work well for those 6 nights. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, I think the whole Premier League might be finished at Milton Keynes.
Yeah. It's a shame because, that there are some great places in the world, that we could be going to. Glasgow in particular. I was really looking forward to that night out. Really looking forward to a night out in Glasgow after the Premier League. But London, the Unibet playoffs and all that sort of stuff. Obviously, London was going to host it, then they weren't going to host it. It was going to go to Rotterdam, then it was going to go to Sheffield. Now back to London. It's a bit of a nightmare. And then obviously next year it's going to go to Berlin, which is a big surprise. I'd say this though, right, about the Premier League is that if it does finish in front of no fans, at least it's finished. Do you know what I mean? There are plenty of other sports that are not going to be finished. There are plenty of the sports that won't even get a start. And if it does mean, again, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news and looking ahead, but if it means the World Championships has to go ahead in Milton Keynes, then it has to go ahead in Milton Keynes, But the thing is, I appreciate that. That's
the only one that won't go there. I think they could put every major there. You could put the floor events there, but the PDC will move heaven and earth to put the World Championships in a country, despite broadcasting schedule differences and all that, where there are fans. That one will be proud, no matter what.
I agree. Looking at timescales, and again, we don't know anything here. We're just talking here like we do. I think the Grand Prix will be in Milton Keynes.
Yeah.
And then the Slam, potentially. Cause it's not just that. It's all right saying we can have some fans in, but it's not. The PDC won't want to lose money on tournaments. So you're probably looking, they probably need 50% of the crowd just to break even with security costs, stewarding costs, and everything like that. So 30%, is it worth letting 30% of the fans in for the sake of a business model?
Also,
probably not.
Also, as well, by the way, the biggest one for them. Also, as well, by the way, can I just say, as well, the big one for me is the Players' Champs finals in Minehead as well. That's not just a big one for the PDC. That's a big one for Butlins. Thousands of fans, 5,000 fans on site all weekend as well, having to refund that much money from people. The fact, because I think, if I'm right in saying, there's only a few tens maybe left of packages that they do for the whole weekend. I know the 4 nights options completely sold out. So that's a big one for the PDC. So I think that's the moment. I think if we can get fans back into Butlins, where, of course, the last PDC event with fans took place, a major event anyway, the UK Open. If we can get fans back in there for that, I'm very confident that we'll get some fans in for the World Match Play as well. For the World Championships, excuse me.
No, I agree that I think that if the Players' Championship is behind closed doors, then the World is in absolute huge danger because there's no ticket. There's no, obviously, rightly so, but there's no tickets going on sale yet. You think by now the World is normally almost sold out. There's a couple of afternoon sessions left. So
it normally goes on sale. It normally goes on sale during that week in the match play, doesn't it? The week in the match play is when it goes out on sale for PDC TV subscribers, and the week after that, this week would be general sale.
Yeah, so I think that we could be seeing a lot of Milton Keynes, the new home of World Darts, obviously.
Yeah. Hashtag trademark hashtag patent pending on that.
But it'll do.
Yeah.
They need to get a water slide in there.
Yeah, so I think a lot more will come out, obviously, after these test results for World Snooker at the Crucible and everything like that, and listening to IFL, like I do a lot, as you all know, that Eddie was talking. He's hopeful that November time they'll be able to get maybe not full capacity, but a sizable crowd at the O2 for potentially Joshua to fight. So again, right up until the Players' Championships, I think we could see a lot of Milton Keynes. And then after that, I'm hopeful. I wouldn't say
your
convinced.
Wi-Fi bill's going to be your Wi-Fi bill's going to be horrendous by the time you leave Milton Keynes, mate.
To be fair, I'm already on first term names with the Marco Pierre White staff. Normal breakfast.
Yeah,
you know.
Ooh, hello. Ooh. You were having a good week, weren't you? Someone's been paying you too much.
Right, there was any place we could eat. That was our bubble restaurant.
Oh God! To be fair, having that though every single night, I'll take that 100%. What a place.
So yeah, Milton Keynes, get used to it, folks. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. The World Match Play, we all put 100% into it, and it was fantastic. We made a few mistakes along the way technically with settings and things like that, but in the main, I think we did a really good job, not blowing our own trumpets, but I thought it was good from start to finish.
Yeah, great tournament.
What we do.
Fantastic. Great tournament. Great to share it with you boys. Great to share it with the great tournament. Great tournament with you boys, and great to share it, of course, to all viewers and listeners across the platforms. Don't forget, of course, just I've got to do a quick plug now that if you haven't been able to listen to the whole show, or watch the whole show, will all be, of course, downloadable as a podcast for you on Spotify and Google Podcasts. We are trying our best with Apple, but they are being quite much of a pain, as I would expect, but there we go. And Phil, you have a little bit of an exclusive for our podcast listeners as well.
We do for all podcast listeners and podcast only, exclusive to the Online Darts Lounge. I got a very good 15 or so minutes with the World Match Play champion himself, Dimitri Vandenberg, home in Belgium, discussing what it's been like since he's gone home, reflecting on his world match play title. So pleasure talking to Dimitri, and for all you pod listeners, you're in for a treat. That's all I'm saying.
It's going to be fun, mate. Can't wait to listen to it myself.
Belgian waffles.
What a way to end the show.
Yes, gentlemen. All I say, the last hour or so has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks to everyone for joining us at the Live Lounge. We will try and do a show next week. We're going to come up with a theme for it. Obviously, no darts, but we will think of something to talk about, because we want to do this weekly so you guys get used to us being here and us doing the show, more importantly. And I'm confident within the next month we may even get a full live show with the three of us all in one place, socially distancing. Gentlemen, absolute pleasure. Remember, Online Darts, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, you name it, we are there covering all things darts for you digitally. I'm Phil Bars, Jolliffe and Jack Gobby Garwood. Absolute pleasure, and thank you very much, everyone, for joining us on the Online Darts Live Lounge, and we will see you next time.